Welcome to the Scalable Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we discuss the most scalable strategies, tools, and approaches to successfully invest in real estate. Learn how to make the most impact of your time, automate your real estate investing business, find off-market deals with minimum time invested, and leverage your capital to create as many income streams as possible so that you can achieve true financial independence. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Mason Clement. Hi, Scalable Investors. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Mason Clement, and today we have Lucas Miller with us, who is the founder of Bannock Capital, multifamily syndicator, and possibly doing other commercial real estate deals. We're going to get into that very quickly. He was actually on our episode 5, our podcast earlier in last year. So don't want to go too much into detail in the intro. Let's just jump into things. Lucas, what's going on today?
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Mason. I appreciate it. Not much. Yeah. We're gonna talk about land too, which is exciting. But yeah, we're just doing multifamily deals right now. No other asset classes. Not that I'm not interested in that, but it's pretty much just multifamily and land right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I was looking at and it's been a while, a little over a year since we did our last episode, and so. It said Bannock Capital focusing on operating and acquiring commercial real estate properties. So I wasn't sure if you do anything else.
Yeah, no, we're pretty much just stuck to multifamily right now. Maybe in the future we'll scale out, but I've got enough things on my plate right now.
Got it. Yeah. Honestly, like I'm probably one of the worst at it and just getting shiny object syndrome. If you hear about self-storage or this or that or whatever other commercial real estate, just you don't want to chase your tail, and not accomplish anything.
Yeah. In fact, I struggle with that a lot since I was a kid, honestly. So I've really kind of had to take a strong stance of, this is my path. That's the reason why I don't branch out into other things right now. And, I know we're going to talk about land investing too, but that was a very calculated pivot for me. It wasn't something that I just on a whim did, because I did that enough when I was, early in my real estate investing career. I did flips and small rentals and private lending and wholesaling and all these things that didn't really pan out very well because it wasn't a main focus of mine. But, that's my story, my struggles.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I did kind of butcher the intro because that's the main reason I wanted to have you on this second time around, is because you're the only person I know right now that's doing both multifamily and land investing. And if my followers are familiar with me, I'm focused on land right now. So I think it's definitely great to jump into that. So you said it was a calculated pivot. What went into that thinking and the calculations?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And for me, it was, first of all, land investing itself, this, it's one of those niches in real estate that not a lot of people know about. And for the vast amount of land that is in America, the investor to land ratio is, it's very advantageous for investors. The house to house flipper or even wholesaler ratio is much worse. It's much more competitive. So land in and of itself is a phenomenal niche to be investing in right now. But you hear so much about people who still flip houses on the side and use that to invest in real estate, into syndicate deals. So that's very common, but not a lot of people do, flipping land. And it's very similar to flipping houses in that you buy something low and sell something high. And, the devil is in the details on how that's done. But I found that it was a calculated risk in that it provided much needed velocity of capital, meaning you could very quickly turn money very quickly into multifamily deals, which is more of a long burn. So you have this quick burn of flipping property into a long burn of, more net worth, generational wealth type investing. So I think that was the key I was missing for a while. And, I just wanted to get to my goals quicker, and this was an easier way to get there. And yeah, so that was my calculated risk. That, and I had other friends that were doing it and had really good success. And so I felt comfortable making that jump. But if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have.
Okay. So as someone that already had some multifamily deals going on, it just wasn't generating enough cash fast enough, is what you're saying?
Oh no, it was for sure. But it accomplished a couple of things for me. One, you can greatly increase the velocity the more money you have. And so, I was stuck in a pot. I had this amount of money. I could only invest in so many deals. So I needed a better generational money generating tool. And so for the time I invest in it to the amount of capital it gives me, it's very advantageous to me right now, very efficient with my time. And it allows me to invest in more and more deals alongside my investors while not taking up a ton of time. And so it's very unique in real estate right now, how well this works.
Okay. So let's just jump into the details a little bit more. How do you go about finding these deals for your land? Yeah.
So I'm really lazy with that. I don't know if I'm lazy, but I'm definitely, I'm very conscious of how much time I want to spend on it. And that'll kind of go into my exit strategy too, a little bit, but I have more money. Like I feel like a lot of people who get started in land or any other sort of niche might not have as much money to devote. So they have to devote a ton of time to it. I have the luxury of having a well-capitalized, land business. And so I can use that to offload some time. And so I've just been buying my lists. I use a company called Priced, and, I don't know how familiar you are with them, but Priced and pull thousands and thousands of lists or of contacts, and then just the old fashioned direct mail. I'm not getting into the fancy text messaging right now. And it probably will come to that eventually because this gets more and more competitive. But right now it's just all direct mail, and I'm using kind of a neutral letter, a little bit of a hybrid type letter between a blind offer and a neutral letter.
Okay. So hybrid, like using a range?
Yeah. A very specific range, depending on where I'm mailing. Yeah.
Okay. I know that on a prior podcast episode, you mentioned that you're doing Colorado. Are you just in Colorado still, or are you branched out?
No, I'm in Colorado and Virginia. Colorado is very competitive. Virginia is not. So, I get way more Virginia deals, but at the end of the day, I like Colorado a whole lot better because they sell a lot quicker.
Yeah, got it.
And that's where I'm from. So I know the area really well, but Virginia is where I live now. So that's how I chose my markets. Maybe someday I'll branch out into another market, but for now this works.
Okay. Yeah, that's how it is in Texas. Like I did some deals in North Carolina, and they were moved a little slower. I mean, I got them done. It worked out, but Texas, I was able to find a lot more buyers a lot faster. There's definitely more interest there.
On fire.
Yeah. Yeah. In some markets, I had mailers that completely flopped because it's just so on fire. And actually I'd follow up with some SMS or cold calls and like, well, I got a house on it. It's like, what are you talking about? This is vacant land. It's like, no, I built the house in the past 12 months. And it's like, my list is just a shitty list.
Yeah.
So that happens too sometimes. And so I started.
That's the hard part of pulling lists like that is, they're always not dependable. And Priced isn't this magic tool. Like I really like those guys and, the product they put together, but it's not a magic cure all for this. Like I still have constant scrubbing issues and, my data's wrong just as much as it is for other places. So, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. How much do they charge per record?
Oh man, I'd have to go back and look. I want to say 7 cents, something like that. 9 cents. I don't remember exactly, but
okay. I think they just link up with DataTree, and that's the real source.
The same data. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was using DataTree when I first started. It was 9 cents a record. But a little tip if you're curious to branch out, I just signed up for Property Radar, and that's like PropStream. So both PropStream and Property Radar, you get 10,000 records for not for free, but for $100 a month. So I was using PropStream, but the problem with PropStream, if you're drawing polygons, they limit your polygon to whatever it was, like 250 square miles or something. And it's like, I need to canvas this large area and I don't have time for all this shit. But in Property Radar, it's like you can actually draw a polygon across the entire country if you want. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And at first go on.
No, I'm mostly just doing counties, but I would love the polygon option. So that's something I might look into.
Yeah, that's how I was taught to do it initially, was like, don't do an entire county, just look for clusters of like really hot activity, because you might have a super rural area where no one really cares about. Like, great example, West Texas, you might be able to get some deals done, but it's outside of the main triangle of DFW down to San Antonio and Houston. And so it's like just a vastly different price per acre and everything, and the activity and everything's different. So I wouldn't like hit the entire state of Texas. I'm going to look for like little pockets of value. Maybe even within West Texas, there's maybe certain subdivisions where I could find some great activity and great markets. But
yeah,
I
actually saw a lot of Colorado lots to West Texas people. So they like to like vacation up in Colorado. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My family actually does that too. And July 4th, I was listening to my younger brother in Taos, New Mexico. It's like a few hours from the border from Colorado. But when I was a kid, actually, we go up there constantly to Colorado.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's a deep, good place in my heart. And I was trying to take my wife to Taos, and I was like, this is going to be great. We're going to see the Rockies. But the problem was we flew into Albuquerque, and we were kind of in the desert part of New Mexico for a while. And Taos is just not what I think of when I think of the Rockies. It's like Breckenridge and Arapahoe Basin.
Yeah, snowy mountains.
Yeah, exactly. But it was still a good experience. Went some light water rafting and stuff. But going off on a tangent here, when you're doing this, like, certain people like to do certain things differently. So one really smart way that I've heard other land investors doing it is building their buyers list first and then going out and finding the sellers that meet that criteria. Is that something you're doing, or did you already just have that buyers list available, or how's that work?
No. I kind of did it in tandem. So we started with smaller properties in Southern Colorado, like a lot of people do. They're very popular right now. And so you build the buyers list on Facebook. You post a lot for sale. They respond saying how much, and you say, go to my website and look, and you capture their email. And that's kind of how you build it very quickly. What I found is most people didn't either. They put in fake email addresses, which is fine, but they were also at a very specific price point. And so as I scaled into better properties, it was pointless. Like, the engagement was essentially zero because they were out of their price range. And so I've kind of had to almost scrap my buyers list and build up a new one almost, or segment it off into different types. So I don't really have a great buyers list. In fact, my dispositions on land deals is really bad. Like, I'm not great at the sales part. Mostly because I'm not putting a lot of effort into it right now. What I do want to do is move these lots very quickly. Like, I don't like having things sitting on the books. And so what I've been kind of doing for a little while is wholesaling or joint venturing. And so what I mean by wholesaling is I get something under contract. I immediately go to my buyer's list of other land investors and say, hey, I've got this lot for sale. Here's my contract price. And sometimes, depending on the spread, I'll usually bring it up to like 48 to 50% of market value. So sometimes that's $5,000. Sometimes that's a little more than that. Sometimes it's only like $2,000 or $1,000. And so I'll just make my money on the spread there. So the better I buy it, the more money I make. And it's advantageous for other land investors because they're not having to market for those deals. They get them really quickly and, typically sell them. Or what I've been doing lately too is joint venturing with other land investors that are much better at sales than me. So I'll bring them the deal, we split it 50-50 or whatever it is, and they sell it for me essentially, which is really cool. And so neither one is worse. Typically it's a little more work to sell it and split the profits. Usually they're either terms deals or, cash sales, and cash sales are easy to split, but terms is a little more work. And so I prefer both, honestly. I don't really care, but I'm really bad at sales. So that's my go-to right now.
Okay. Is that like a 50-50 JV split? Or do you 60-40?
Yeah, it depends. So typically I've done 50-50 where I bring the lead and we split the purchase price. So if a lot's 10 grand, we both put up 5 grand, the partner will order the drone photography. I'll cover closing costs, and, we'll be close to 50-50. And then anything we make is split 50-50. But I've also done one where he covered the purchase price. I didn't pay anything out of pocket. I just brought the lead. He paid for everything and sold it. And so I get 40% of that deal. He gets 60. So it just depends. Everything's negotiable, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's pretty much in line with what I've heard as well. But I think those are great strategies because you don't have to put a lot of your own capital in there as well. So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So how are you finding the other land investors? I mean, besides like an obvious way of just meeting friends through friends, are you like part of some certain groups or something, or how do you go about it?
No, I'm not part of any group, any training group or anything. I just kind of, and I'm still figuring this out. Like, I have a really good partner in Colorado, who does very good deals. He's very good on the sales side, and he moves a lot of volume. So I kind of just bring everything to him and he can handle it. But I don't have a partner like that in Virginia. And I've really been struggling trying to find someone like that. And it's harder to find here. So kind of some of the things that I'm asking is like, what kind of volume are you doing, or sales volume? If you're moving 2 or 3 parcels a month, I know you're working, you have a steady stream and your sales pipeline is very strong. If you're selling one every like 6 months, like I was, I'm not gonna partner with you, until you're doing a little better. So, so I, it's hard. Facebook groups, I guess, word of mouth. That's my best advice.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone's got their own ways of doing it too. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I think just over time, like I met someone through like the first group I was a part of that introduced me to this other group. And then that really helped to branch out a little bit more for me. But honestly, like the spreads, I'm always trying to get, or I'm trying to get like a full retail price. And if I can just do double closes and buy and sell at the same time and just not have to even risk my capital, that's the best way to go, I think. But the problem with those is you have to manage a lot of different timelines and make sure that seller's not getting cold feet or the buyer getting cold feet. Like one time, like we had title issues and the buyer was like, oh, I'm going to terminate my contract because I don't want to deal with this. I get scared about the property now. So
Yeah, I've had that too. And honestly, if I had more time to devote to this side of this business, then I would definitely do double closings because they seem like a no-brainer. But at the same time, like I'm not confident that I can sell something in 60 or 90 days or whatever your contract length is to, I'm just not that confident.
yeah, got it. Yeah, I know when I started out, I was doing like average purchase price of 4,000, and then like that timeline of being able to sell it was irrelevant because I was just taking it down. And actually what I learned over the past year is I had shifted to focusing solely on wholesale and doing double closings, and I was leaving money on the table and kind of ignoring a lot of the smaller stuff. But some of the smaller stuff where I bought it outright, I could sometimes buy for 7 and sell for 20. And like, those are some still very significant spreads. So
Yeah.
I shouldn't like abandon that business model. And so now going forward, I'm going to do both concurrently, and I think it's going to work out really well. It just obviously depends on the market and purchase price.
Yeah, at least in Colorado, that worked out really well for me. I don't know about Virginia. I don't have enough data, but in Colorado, there's things selling for, 10 grand that are really good sellers all the way up to like, I don't know, 60, 80 that sell very quickly and very consistently. So I haven't really limited myself to a purchase price, and it's kind of irrelevant because I'm not necessarily buying these outright. Most I am, but some it's like, either I partner with someone who has the money, or I, do a double closing or wholesale it to another investor. So I'm not really limited by purchase price, which I think is a good way to start. If you're doing that, is don't worry about the money.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it's just mental blocks too. It's like, I know starting out, I was thinking, well, what if I'm under contract for something like $50,000 or $100,000 and they hold my feet to the fire and try to force me to buy it? And yeah. But then as I get more confident on like how quickly I could sell it, I was like, I don't care, I'll do it. And then sometimes like I had a buyer, and like, for example, one was the buyer's at 79,000, my purchase price is 50. So it's like, I want to make after closing costs like 25,000 or something, but then the buyer backs out. And it was like, no, it's still a good deal though. So I have to like put up $50,000. It's like,
Yeah,
it feels like a loss, even though it's not a loss. It's like, now I'm holding property on my books. It's like 50,000 when I could have bought like 10 other properties at 5,000 each. And like,
yeah,
just like, Jesus.
I've been through that too. Yeah, it's not, that's a hard problem to have, especially when your buyer backs out that you thought was going to be a home run deal, but now it's not.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, now I got to find another buyer. It's happened on a couple deals. It's very frustrating. And it's like, why'd you waste my time? So at the same time, like sometimes I do that with other sellers where it's like, I can't find a buyer and I'm not going to buy this. So
Mhm.
I waste their time as well. It kind of goes both
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Yeah. So do you keep your multifamily investors as completely separate from the land part of things, or do you ever pitch them on the idea of JVing on a property,
No,
a
I
land
keep
deal?
everything separate for now. Mostly because they're just not. I've got a list of maybe like 10 people or so that I think would be interested in alternative assets down the road, things with a little higher yield like this. But I've only taken one multifamily investor and raised money through them. Um, but I just haven't had a need necessarily to raise a lot of money so far, just with my style. I'm not keeping things on the books. So I haven't really felt it necessary to do that. Now, I think as things progress, I probably will. Um, but I just don't see, I keep them kind of siloed on purpose, in that I don't want my multifamily investors to think that I'm distracted from their investment too, which is, I think, is really important. And that's kind of why I structure things the way I do. Like, my land business does not take much time at all. And I think that's important when you're taking other people's money too. You want to make sure they come first in anything that you're doing. And so for that reason, I've kind of siloed things a little bit, but who knows down the road, I probably will pitch a few select people, but it'll never be like an open offering, if that makes sense. Down the road, I might syndicate land, who knows, but it's not on my horizon right now.
Got it. Yeah, actually, I joined another group. It's tricky stuff, but in terms of like syndicating land, I've been learning about how to syndicate the equity for like a I don't know, 100-acre plus type of deal where you're going to do a very large development. And I think that would make a lot of sense, because like just to pay the engineers and get all that stuff approved by the local government, the county and city, everything, you might look at like $250,000, and then might cost another $1 million or whatever to build the thing you're building. So
yeah. There's definitely a niche of, it's called horizontal development, where essentially you buy the raw land, you get it rezoned, you get engineering plans. Sometimes you pour a pad even, but then you basically go and sell it as like almost a build to suit type situation where, that stuff, development in general kind of makes me a little nervous. Just my temperament. I don't really enjoy development projects. I've never done one, but I don't enjoy the thought of it. But I like tangible things. So buildings already built or vacant land that doesn't have any issues with it, that really appeals to me. I'm very safe in that way.
Yeah, it can definitely get really hairy. I don't know, maybe it was a gas station before, you have a lot of contamination, or you never know. And
yeah, that's one of my bigger fears.
Yeah, definitely.
Or like a landfill.
Yeah, landfill. There's all sorts of stuff. And one interesting thing I think I've learned is that there's a thing called like peats, where they'll do like a soil analysis and understand if I build on this, will like that peat moss stuff like compress and then like the buildings start to sink? And then in which case it's just totally not a viable place to build. All sorts of things. And what I learned in Texas too, like the septic system laws are all really weird, and it like requires a minimum of 1 acre, otherwise a wastewater treatment plant's required. Or I don't know.
We've got similar stuff in Virginia. Just the water table is so close to the surface. In Colorado, it's not really that big of a deal, except you don't have water rights, unless it's a really unique situation. But in Virginia, septic is everything. Like if it won't perk, then it's useless essentially. So it's not useless. Like it just limits your buyers. But yeah, buying septic is a big deal. And I don't enjoy that part of Virginia, but it's very popular here to make sure your lot perks before you buy it. So it's just something you got to deal with, I guess.
Yeah, that was my big learning curve in North Carolina. My first deal, about 3 lots, and I knew they didn't perk, but I thought maybe they perk now because they did a perk like 20 years ago, the perk test. And I did a perk test, it still hadn't perked. And so now I can't do much with it because the county doesn't allow for you to like just park an RV. It's only 10 minutes from the beach. So a lot of people just want to put an RV on there for the weekend. It's like, well, you can do that. Probably no one's going to enforce it, but technically, I'm probably too honest. It's like, technically though, you should do an RV park.
Yeah. So I have the same problem. I'm too honest. Like there's some lots in Colorado. It's like, well, you're not supposed to camp here for more than 14 days, but clearly there's permanent structures here. So it's not being enforced, but you probably should know the real laws. But, I think that's a good thing. Most people find that pretty genuine. And it helps me sleep at night.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's tricky. I think we get most of our questions answered here. I know you have a hard stop about 10 minutes. The last thing I was going to ask though, I know you're also running the Fear-Free Passive Investing podcast, and I did think it was interesting how you had a couple suggested questions from that. Like the main was the biggest fear that you find when you're raising capital from investors. What is that from a passive investor standpoint before they invest with you?
Yeah. And I like this question because it changes, as the question itself changes from investors. Usually they'll say like, what is interest rate? What is the interest rate environment like? How's that going to affect my investment? Or, what happens if, COVID hits again and we have more lockdowns? But they're all usually centered around the same idea. And it's the fear of losing money. Like that's what it is. Hands down. Everybody's scared of losing money. Nobody wants to do that. And so that fear manifests itself in different questions, but it's usually like what happens, if something goes wrong. And so the best thing I've learned in this podcast is, and it's relatable to multifamily, it's relatable to land, and it's all about mitigating your risks. Like I'm sure with your land investing, you have a checklist of everything you look at before you buy a lot. Mine has gotten bigger since I started because I've gotten burned a few times on silly things like making sure it perks before I buy it, or, asking silly questions like that. And people are always hesitant to invest money in something when there's this fear of the unknown. Nobody blinks an eye about investing into, Tesla stock or something, even though that's way more volatile, or Bitcoin, way more volatile than either of our investment strategies. And so if you can just educate people in that, hey, there's a lot of people doing this, this is relatively safe. Here's the benefits, here's the disadvantages, and being honest with them. People see it. They're smart. They understand it. And they realize that, if I just educate this fear away, it's not going to be as big of a deal. And so that's really my goal with that podcast, is just educating people about commercial real estate investing and how they can, mitigate that fear a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the fear of unknown can be applied in almost every aspect of life, but yeah. That is a great point though. People don't really think about, oh yeah, it's Tesla or Microsoft or Bitcoin, whatever. Now that it's mainstream, everyone's doing it, it's fine, even though I'm going to lose money on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, they're different strategies for sure, but you don't have Elon Musk's cell phone unless you're like way up there, I guess. But you do have my cell phone number. I'm sure your investors have your cell phone number. It's easy to get in contact with them. It's easy to be closer to that investment and a little more grounded that way. So that helps people a lot too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember before I got into real estate investing, I was trading options and like the naked options. I wouldn't own the underlying. So I was doing like butterflies, spreads, and all this fancy option stuff that you learn with doing CFA curriculum shit. And it gives you this false sense of security, like, oh, I know my stuff because I study this option trading, no problem. But then Elon Musk puts out a little tweet about something and it fucks up all the Tesla stock options. And then I lose like $10,000. It's like, all right.
Yeah. Or like, the meme coins and that.
Oh yeah.
It's way more volatile.
Yeah. Well, that could have worked out in someone's favor too. I read yeah. I know the alternate coin to the Dogecoin. I guess that's how you say it. This other little Japanese dog. These brothers made like $9 million because they bought it at like 0.000002 cents or whatever, and then it goes up to whatever.
Yeah, and everybody has a story like that, but is it replicable?
Yeah.
No,
exactly. It's a total fluke. Yeah.
Land investing is replicable. Multifamily is replicable. It's, you might get lucky, but you might also lose thousands of dollars doing that. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I put like $50 in it. So
yeah,
something I could afford to lose. But
yeah.
Okay. Last question. Well, I guess a couple of questions. So on the attracting investors, what's the best way you found?
Being genuine and honest. I think that has, well, in real estate itself has kind of lended itself to crappy people, the people that want to get rich quick generally are attracted to, things that are flashy, like they perceive real estate to be. A lot of with that comes sales. And people feel like a high pressure sales situation immediately turns people off. And so the way I've attracted a lot of my investors is just being completely honest with them through the podcast, through videos, through just conversations with them, and just saying, hey, this is not for everyone. This is a more volatile investment than buying a bond for sure, but that's not going to make you rich. And so being honest with the pros and the cons and just being someone relatable and not pressuring them into an investment. I've done that before too, where I'm like, this is an obvious deal. You have to invest. Like, this is a no-brainer. Those people get buyer's remorse and then they're a pain in the butt. Like, I promise you, it's not worth it. So the best way I've found to attract the people you want to be around is just act yourself, be honest, be genuine, put yourself in their shoes and answer their questions honestly.
Okay. And I imagine starting out as kind of friends and family or more investing in you than the deal. And then as you expand your network, then
yeah. Yeah, that's how it starts for sure. But then you get references, you get word of mouth, you put yourself out there a little bit, you can attract more people, and the right people will invest in you, the wrong people won't. So that's the best advice I have.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to be on a polarizing too, like Donald Trump, where you have clear supporters and clear haters. It's fine because the supporters are like 1,000% behind you. Right?
Yeah, it's something that's taken me a long time to get, but yeah.
Okay. Last question. What's your overall vision? Like, what do you see yourself going with this kind of both land and multifamily, say, the next few years?
I think I'm just going to keep going on that path. Like I said earlier, I get shiny object syndrome. So if something comes up in my peripheral, I almost want to avoid it on purpose, even if I know it's going to make me money, but I almost want to avoid it just to show myself that I can stay focused on things. I made this commitment to a lot of investors that, hey, I'm going to be around for a very long time. You're investing with me for at least 6 years, if not longer. I'm going to be here for 6 years and I'm not going to, deviate from that at all. So for the meantime, I love what I do in multifamily. I love land too. But I think land, I'm going to try and hire people to run that business for me. I really like it. But I like it for what it can accomplish, not necessarily because I enjoy the job. I like multifamily for all those reasons. So, long term, it's definitely going to be both businesses, but it's I could see myself exiting out of land faster.
Okay, yeah, there's definitely 100 steps or more for each side of the business. That's totally makes sense to automate. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that now?
You can just find me fearfreepassive.com, or you can go to bannockcapital.com. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on Facebook, Lucas Miller. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes as well. But for the diligent folks, they're probably there right now, ready to contact you. So thanks a lot, Lucas, on jumping on this second episode. Definitely going to have you on again later, but thanks again.
Yeah, it's good talking with you, Mason.
Likewise.
All right.
All right, that's another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to leave a review and subscribe on whatever channel you're using to listen or watch these episodes. And also be sure to go to scalablerealestateinvesting.com, scroll to the bottom, and fill out the form to sign up for our email. And you could also reach me directly at mason@scalablerealestateinvesting.com. That's MASON at scalablerealestateinvesting.com. If you'd like to get in touch with me to either partner on deals or even be considered to do your own episode on this podcast. Thanks again, and have a great day.